otter researcher from Florida Gulf Coast University in Fort Myers, and my charge is to conduct research on river otters in Florida, primarily South Florida. I have all this up here so you can read it as we go along. Sometimes that helps. To the best of my knowledge, I am currently the only individual investigating anything about otters in the state of Florida. In contrast to the rest of North America and the United States, no significant scientific investigations have been conducted in Florida on otters. All the significant investigations in North America have occurred above the northern border of Florida. This is, I believe, the result of two things. There's been no environmental disasters that pollute the waters and contaminate the otters, i.e., as Exxon Valdez did on the 24th of March in 1989. The other one, no otter trapping to or near to extinction have occurred in Florida. And that, therefore, didn't draw attention to the river otters. And I think you have to have disasters sometimes to draw attention to a problem. And I think the otters in Florida are a classic example of that. Now, I believe, I can't stress enough how important this is, that the single most valuable resource to learn about the health of river otters, as well as the health of the aquatic environment they inhabit, are the carcasses discarded by the river otter fur trappers. What I would like to do is I want to be able to be set up or be part of a communication network with Florida river otter trappers. And at the same time, Victor, I will, if I meet someone that's interested in doing that or trapping, I will kind of help usher them into your organization. I'm going to join the organization myself.
Good.
But I'm not going to be available for stuff. I'll maybe come next year with an update.
Well, that's great.
I believe so. That's the so that's kind of the gist of what I want to talk with. No, it's my intention to share my interest in otters with the trappers of Florida. And here I am, 2022 Florida Trappers Association Rendezvous. It is hoped I can return and share the results and value of your partnership. So, but these are the kind of things that we can learn from the carcasses. We can learn about their diets based upon the gastrointestinal analysis, weights and measurements of river otters in Florida. This is an important thing because it's difficult to differentiate the male from the female in Florida, but it's not as difficult up north because, in my opinion, the Florida otter, the females are just a slightly smaller, which I'll talk about this afternoon. And then age determination. There's a number of ways you can determine the age of otters. And genetics and river otter research in South Florida. I want to know more about. I want to be assured that we have got the right analysis of the genetic makeup of the otter. And I would like to take an otter from Florida and have another genome run, because the collection of genetics of an animal is its genome. Okay, and genomes have been done on everything from gophers to eagles to reptiles, fishes. So we can tell what, like for example, in an otter, you can examine the feces for DNA characteristics. You can even tell the species. You can tell the sex, and you can find out and apply a given identification number to that otter. So when you go to another latrine upstream and you sample everything, and oh, look at this, as a second sample, it was the same one as in the first.
Would you be interested in us sending you scat?
What?
Would you be interested in us sending you scat?
Yes.
Okay.
But I have to have I've got to restrict it to South Florida because it's too broad a thing.
Okay.
What I could use throughout Florida is individuals that can locate, identify the otters as a roadkill, and tell me precisely where it was and when you saw it. Because then I can put it on a major map and you can see where the roadkill is. What's happening globally with otters is we're looking to define otters that have been killed, whether they're in England, Germany, or the Asian otter in Malaysia. If they've been killed by a car, we want to know what kind of situations existed in those places, and maybe we could come up with some solutions to help the otters pass across the road. See, we have a lot of otters that have learned, you know, that there's a culvert that'll get you on the road, but those aren't available everywhere. So there's a lot of things we need to do. We need to get signs up that say otter crossing. We need to have transmitters on otters that, you know, will light up a sign that says there's an otter nearby, you know. So those are wonderful things, I think. And another one is we need to know the diseases otters have and nutrient deficiencies that might affect those diseases. I would like to know about non-trapping injuries of otters and potential sources. You know, let's face it, when we trap an otter, say for example a leg trap, we know we break their leg or whatever the case may be. But I want to know about other injuries and how they could possibly have occurred.
Gators.
And you can tell them by how recent the fracture is versus how old it is. So that's one of the things. And then what's really important is that the parasitism is one, but a really important thing to me is otters have not the ability, but what happens when an otter eats a prey species, whatever contaminants are in that prey species be compounded in the otter. So he eats a fish here, he eats a snake here, whatever the case may be, that fish ate a fish, all it ends up in the top predator, which is an otter. They end up in the otter. And that tells you not only the health of the otter, but it tells you about the health of the environmental quality. And that's an important issue. Also, these studies need to be done because at some point in time, we may question what happened to all the otters. And if we don't have any information to go back to, how do we solve the problem? What do we do? We need to know that. And more than likely, it's not going to be trapping. Trapping, we have far too many otters in here and far too few trappers that, you know, aren't going to be trapping otters.
They're too hard to trap.
Pardon?
They're too hard to trap, that's why.
Yeah.
How far, where do you define South Florida?
Pardon? Oh, the northern tip of Lake Okeechobee through the Florida Keys from the Gulf Coast to the Atlantic coast.
Okay, so we're out of your jurisdiction anyway.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
But you still could take in mortality.
Yeah, take in more roadway fatalities. I want to do that throughout Florida because I think it's important for us to know that. And in Europe, they've done stuff they built overpasses over roads so amphibians can get across. Well, this ain't going to work here.
Can you just use sightings? If we were,
Pardon?
if we are sighting, could we just send you a GPS coordinate of sighting? Would that make?
That's exactly right. Just where this, you know, if you
I mean, if you see them on the pond or on your game cameras or something like that,
Right.
would that be pertinent data?
it would be if it's in South Florida.
That's what we're saying, I think we're all north of you, your study. So.
Well, I've got one colleague sitting over there, and then maybe he and I can help and do some things. And I have a lot of students at the University of Florida Gulf Coast that are interested in this, and I have a number of projects, research projects outlined, and we have a lot of students that are interested in this.
Vic, can you use the content from iNaturalist? Do you have an account with them to where otter sightings? GPS
I haven't, but
resulted?
I have come across sightings that were done by iNaturalist. You know, that's where I found out where the extreme northern range of the river otter is. It's just past Galveston near Freeport, Texas, but it goes from there all the way across northern tip, down the entire west side of Florida, around the tip, all the way up the north side of the Atlantic to Nova Scotia. But they're all behind barrier islands. They're protected, and it's easier for an otter to survive, because our freshwater otters that you and I see out here, you know, in Lake Eaton here, those otters in some areas adapt to the estuarine waters, so they're what we refer to as coastal marine otters. But they're the same otter we have here, nothing different. They just live in a different place, eat different things. So so if you want to contact me, this is how to do it. There's business cards up on the front. The key word in this statement is text. Because if you send me, if you try to call me up and leave a message for me, I won't answer it, because I don't know you. That's a big thing. And how many phone calls you guys get a day? That junk, spam mail. And then you really need to see my website. Fortunately or unfortunately, also that website's address is on my business card. More than you ever want to know about otters, and it really has to do with North American otter. And one of the things I want people to see, and I'd like you to look for it too, is a guide to the do's and don'ts of living with otters in South Florida. Look at, because it's applicable across the board globally. And more people have been bitten by otters in Florida than any other place in North America or any other place in the world. This is it. We have a lot of people, we have a lot of otters. And sooner or later, there they are. In the kayaking, they're getting in spaces.
Is that because of the interaction with so many people, and even they feed them and stuff?
I think there's some contribution to that. The person that feeds them knows that particular otter, knows how close they can and what can't. Or a stranger comes over to visit, or comes into your yard. Well, they don't know about it, but the otter's nearby, and you see someone up on the shore, maybe he's going to get fed. Well, what happens is that with all animals, is that, well, not all, but I would say mammals primarily, there's two distances you have to be concerned with. The flight distance, in other words, you approach it, they take off. The other one, what do you do here? Right? You attack. That's a critical distance. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to talk about. And this afternoon, I'm going to talk about how trappers can help. So, I also want to thank you for being here and listening to my program, and thank Bob and Janine for all the wonderful help. And I'm telling you, this was absolutely excellent. The camaraderie here is so beautiful, and I'm going to become a little bit more involved. I got a lot of stuff going on, but I want to become a little more involved and see what I can do to help. But as for me, my heart and soul is otters. And so thanks so very much for listening to me. Any questions, additional questions?
Yeah, can I ask you what it was about the nothing, doesn't matter, just curious what it was about the otter.
Well, I study mammals primarily.
Yeah.
I was a curator of mammals, I was a zoological curator, I spent 35 years in this business. And I've worked with everything from mealworms to polar bears. And I'm interested in carnivores. Well, what are carnivores we have? Gray fox, we have raccoon, we have skunk, we have
Red fox, coyote, bobcat, bear.
all those things.
Yeah.
But many of them are already studied
Yeah.
or understudied.
Right.
And I'm not going into the Florida panther issue because my opinion is, I think, a little biased. They're not gonna be long. They'll be gone. We don't have enough habitat. We don't manage what's in the habitat, I don't think adequately enough to allow the Florida panther to survive. You know, years back, they captured, cougars in, Texas and brought them here. And that's what they did back when the Exxon Valdez happened. What they did is, they identified all the problems, and then it brought attention to the lack of otters in different states in North America. 21 states in, 19 of 21 states, otters were trapped to extinction in the United States.
Wasn't it, Arkansas or Missouri that had a big program that started, now they're a legal game again?
Oh, yeah, but they were trapped to extinction.
Yeah, they brought them back in and then they flourished again.
Yeah, and they brought in from Louisiana over 3,800 otters. And they took them and distributed them all over the place. You know, they trapped 3,800, I think 3,800, 600, something like that. And, you know, some of them didn't make it, you know, after trapping. But, this is a big issue.
I know this has happened in other things. With a game commission, if you trap 3,800 otters to ship to another state, someone comes in and says, well, there aren't no more in here, they're endangered now because you took all of them out. As opposed to there was such a surplus that you could, they would look at it in the opposite, oh no, we can't have any more. I know that with the box turtle. There used to be a reptile trade. Mm-hmm. The guy shipped about 40,000 out. And they said, oh no, we're gonna shut it down. He had every box turtle in Florida. It was not that there was such a surplus he could get that many, but they actually put a restriction on box turtles after.
You know, one of the challenges we face, people need to know this from the get-go if we're talking about managing animals.
Yes.
The number one thing you need to remember about wildlife management is you manage every single species, plant and animal, so it's in harmony with each other. You don't increase the number of animals here or decrease the numbers of animals here. You need to learn how to evaluate the ecology of where these animals live and how many animals are in there, how that supports it. Are any of you familiar with when they removed the wolves from Yellowstone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you seen the video on that? They reintroduced, and when they left, the whole ecosystem in the Yellowstone changed. They brought them back, went right back in balance. And so it's critical. It's absolutely critical. You need to know that stuff. And we need to know it, so if there's a problem, we can get some otters from Missouri. Well, Missouri was so successful, they started trapping them. Oh, was that a stink? Well, it wasn't a stink in this country with us otter people in North America. It was a stink to Europeans. See, they have small countries, they have very small populations. They don't have enough otters to trap to sustain a population. They're trying to bring it up. So they criticize us. Nah, those 10 people, I sent them a text. I sent them a text and I told them, hey, just remember this. That's all I said. Just remember this principle. And I told them what I just told you. And that's the thing. Listen, some scientists aren't practical. They're not pragmatic. You know, everything's theoretical. Well, you know, that's wonderful, but we need to know what's going on with